Hi, everyone. It's Jennifer Cuthbert from the Adventures of Lollipop Comics, and you're listening to the True North Country Comics podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book creators and supporters. It's September 28th, 2020. I'm John Swinimer. If you have a comment, criticism, or question, you can contact me at john@truenorthcountrycomics.com. On this episode, I chat with Jennifer Cuthbert at Word on the Street, Toronto. The podcast is available on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. The Word on the Street Toronto is an annual celebration of storytelling, ideas, and imagination, hosting Canada's largest free book and magazine festival each September, and promoting great books by Canadian and Indigenous authors year-round. And this year, the event is virtual. Jennifer is based in Georgetown, Ontario, and has been drawing and writing stories about Lollipop and her friends for over 25 years, since the age of 9. Jennifer is a certified elementary school teacher and loves to use comics as an educational tool to teach kids about the world around them. Jennifer was interviewed on this very site at last year's Word on the Street Toronto event. So, without further ado, here's my chat with Jennifer Cuthbert. So, Jennifer Cuthbert, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Hi, John.
Hi. What I normally do to start off the conversation is ask a creator about their first comic book. So I'm wondering if you remember, what was the first comic book that you read?
I had so many comic books that I read as a kid, so pretty much every time I went on a road trip or an airplane, I got an Archie comic from either the drugstore or the grocery store. And I don't remember which one the first one was that I read, but I had quite a collection when I was a kid, and I would sometimes be really up at night reading one with a flashlight. So I definitely had Archie comics and also Garfield comics and, of course, Charlie Brown. And those were the ones that influenced me when I was a kid.
Cool. No, that's good stuff for sure. So that leads me to my next question. Who or what inspires you to create today?
So kids definitely inspire me to create today. I want to think of different subjects that I can teach kids. Coming from a teaching background, I have an education background, and I started my series because I wanted to think of a fun, low-stress way to get kids into reading and learning. So I try to think of different educational topics that I could present in a fun way, and so kids can learn some facts while they read a fun comic book.
That's great. Absolutely. Perfect. So the focus of our discussion today is Word on the Street Toronto. That's happening virtually this year, which is great. So I'm wondering, what books are you showcasing at this virtual show?
So I actually have some really exciting things going on. I have 4 new books that are available for pre-order right now. So with 2020 being the year that it has been, I decided this year I'm just going to put everything on the table because I had books that I had finished before and I was waiting to be able to print them. And then this year I thought, why don't I just print all of them? So they're actually printing now as we speak, and I have them available for pre-order on the Word on the Street shop. And they should be ready probably the first week of October. So there's 4 different books. And the first one is all about our neighbors, the United States. So there's a book about Lollipop and her friends traveling around the USA. And then the next one is sort of a fairy tales and classic literature book. And it's got Lollipop and her friends reenacting different classic stories. And they kind of put their own fun spin on all those stories. So it's a really fun one. And then I also have a book all about sports from around the world. So that one's lots of fun. And then the last one is actually my pandemic baby. I wrote this book during the lockdown. It took me 3 months from April until July. I finally finished it. And it's all about STEAM education. So if you don't know what STEAM stands for, it's science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math. So sometimes you hear it being called STEM, but if you put the A in it and add arts, it's STEAM. And of course, being a comic book, I had to add arts in there.
Sure.
It's great for teaching kids all about different themes of science and technology and encouraging different kinds of people to go into those fields. Like I have a story all about women in STEAM, and I have a story all about Black people that are inventors and innovators throughout history. So there's a lot of representation in that book too, which we need in STEAM education.
Absolutely. Now, for those, I know that we've talked in the past even at Word on the Street, but for those not familiar with Lollipop, how would you describe her and her stories to others?
So Lollipop and her friends are just a group of kids who like to explore and learn about the world, and they visit lots of different countries, learn about different cultures. Sometimes they celebrate different cultural holidays, and sometimes they even travel back in time and learn about history. And then now with the new STEAM book, they learn about science and technology as well.
And
So
it's
it's a
always
fun,
fun.
low stress way for kids to learn.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Sounds like it's a fun and interesting way that perhaps we didn't have growing up. So it's a
Yeah,
nice,
definitely.
nice sort of gateway into learning. That's not too difficult, let's say.
Mm.
Now, just to step back a wee bit, I'm wondering if to get your thoughts on this as to why comic books are included as part of Word on the Street, and maybe what role do they play that's different from novels?
Comic books and graphic novels definitely play a very important role now. Back when I started in the early 2000s, though, it's funny, they were not very in demand at all. And I had a lot of rejections because a lot of publishers said, oh, we don't want to publish comic books right now or graphic novels. We're not interested. But now the school libraries and bookstores can't keep the graphic novels on the shelves. They're always flying off. So comic books and graphic novels have really gained importance over the years. And I think it's just a different way for people to enjoy reading. Like I said, for kids, it's a fun, low stress way to read. And the visuals really add something different to it. And then now they even have graphic novels for learning Shakespeare. Like, where were those when we
Mm-hmm.
were in high school, right? That would have been great
That's
if they
right.
had the graphic novel versions of Shakespeare, because it can be such a hard subject to learn. So graphic novels and comic books just present things in a new, interesting way.
Ah, that's cool. I was wondering what sort of response you received from readers and perhaps even parents from your book series.
I've had a lot of positive response from kids and parents and also teachers that have said thank you for making books about these, especially the my holiday book. A lot of people, like even adults, read them on social media and they say, oh, I learned something new today because I didn't know anything about this topic. And then sometimes I learn a lot as well when I write them because I have to research all the topics
Mm-hmm.
first. And there are some topics that I know nothing about. And also in the science and technology book as well, I didn't know really anything about some of the subjects. So it's kind of a good learning experience for everybody when they read my books.
Oh, that's cool. Maybe we could take a step back and talk about your creative process. I wonder if you could walk me through how you go from the initial concept, whatever the subject might be, to the finished book.
Sure. So I first think of an educational topic or theme that I think that would be interesting for kids to learn about and read about. And then I have to do research. So I do lots of research online or in books, or if it's to say it's a country that they're going to that I've been to, I can use my own experiences, or if I know someone who has been to that place. And I do lots of research and then write the story around that, and I kind of write it out like it's a script for a play. And
Mm-hmm.
then I put numbers for everything that I want to draw in all the panels, and then I go ahead and draw it all in pencil when I'm happy with the story. And then after that, I trace it all over with a Sharpie, and then I scan it into my computer, and then I actually color using Microsoft Paint, which not a lot of people do. But hey, it comes for free on a lot of people's laptops, so I just use Microsoft Paint. And I like to teach kids that you don't have to have really expensive computer programs or tablets to make comics. You can still make them with a piece of paper. And then if you have a scanner, you can just color them really easily using things like Microsoft Paint.
No, it's great. Absolutely. It's a great, not only as an educational tool in learning a new topic, but also the medium itself is in fact a tool for learning.
Yeah, I like to do workshops with kids in schools. Unfortunately, I don't think I will be able to do a lot in person this year because of the pandemic. There's not a lot of visitors allowed in schools right now, of course. So, but I'm hoping I'll be able to do workshops again someday, and then maybe I'll have to figure out how to do some kind of an online one. So I love to teach kids how to make comics and encourage them to make their own.
That's very worthwhile for sure. So you've talked about some of the projects, books that you're going to have available at the Word on the Street. I wonder if you have any future projects that are in the works that you can talk about.
Yeah, I'm actually working on a book right now about music. So I had thought about that for a while, but then I thought, how can you make a comic book about music? Because like nobody can hear the music, obviously. And but my husband, who has kind of a music education background, he said, no, he said, you can still do it. You should try and do it. So I kind of am focusing on music history, like periods of music history, and then information about different musical instruments. And then so far it's been going pretty well. So I'll hopefully have a music book for Lollipop and her friends soon.
That sounds very interesting, that's for sure. So wondering where people can find out about your existing books and your future books online and your social media presence.
All right. So until September 30th, as we said before, I'm part of the Word on the Street digital marketplace. So people can pre-order any of my new books or my existing books from wordonthestreet.shop. And then you can direct message me on any of my social medias. So I am on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Or you can just email me at jennifer.cuthbert@hotmail.com.
Thanks to Jennifer for the chat. You can discover more about Jennifer and Lollipop on Twitter at lollipop_comics and online at adventuresoflollipop.com. And thanks to you for listening to the True North Country Comics podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to and like this podcast on Apple Podcasts. And please leave a good rating. Also check out the TrueNorthCountryComics.com website and follow along on Twitter at True North Comics. Please send your feedback to John at TrueNorthCountryComics.com. Thanks again for listening and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics Podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2020.